Hello and welcome to Odds on Bundesliga Matchday 17 midweek games on Tuesday and Wednesday after a very interesting weekend, the first of 2025, with Leverkusen beating Dortmund in a very, very entertaining game, and with Ronan having a great success last weekend, including the ACCA and the safe bet.
Yeah, we started off pretty well. I think that most of the tips for the Leverkusen Dortmund game were true in 13 minutes. I think we had already solved the world's problems just 13 minutes in. We got a chic goal score. We had more than 2.5 goals. It kind of set the week off well, and it finished pretty nicely. So hopefully more of the same this week.
Exactly. We have two videos of the Bundesliga this week. First one today, of course, analyzing these midweek games, and then on Thursday, live video to analyze the weekend. So, guys, stay with us. Some good games. Leverkusen Mainz, especially, is very interesting. So, of course, press the like, subscribe, and now let's go on with the show. We have 4 games on Tuesday. Holstein Kiel, Borussia Dortmund is the first one, with Dortmund losing, as we said, against Leverkusen. They are 8th in the standing, 5 points away from the Champions League spot. So, Ronan, I'm not sure if there are doubts about Nuri Sahin. We can already say he's been a disappointment, or the start, and this is not a start already 6 months into the season, hasn't been good.
Yeah, it hasn't been. This obviously is the weekday 17. So after this round of midweek games, we'll find out exactly where Borussia Dortmund are exactly halfway through the season. So that will give us a better idea of, are they the 8th best team in the Bundesliga? You would hope not for a team like Borussia Dortmund, but that's where they are in the table before this match. So hopefully they can maybe move up a couple of places during the week and then go on and build in the second half of the season. But that start to the year wasn't the best one for Borussia Dortmund. They ended their home record. They hadn't lost at home, so Nuri Sahin can't even point to that as, well, we're invincible at home. They're invincible nowhere now. So doubts will continue to creep in if he doesn't get performances, and he really has to get a performance against Holstein Kiel, even if the Dortmund do have a defensive crisis at the moment. At the weekend, they had to give 2 teenagers their first ever starts for Borussia Dortmund. Yannick Loers and 𝗲𝗲𝗍𝗲 both got starts at centre-back and left-back, and Loers actually completed the most passes in the game. He completed something like 130 passes out of 138, which is a crazy amount, but then he won none of his duels. So I'm not sure he's really the answer at centre-back for them in the long run. And Dortmund are looking at bringing in Renato Vega from Chelsea on a permanent deal this week. So that could happen before the weekend. That might give them some stability, because he played the full match against Morecambe for Chelsea in the FA Cup at the weekend. And so he should be match fit to get ready and get into the Borussia Dortmund team immediately. There's a promise that he will go there to be a centre-back rather than a left-back. So that should give them some sort of experience in defence, because they're vastly missing at the weekend. They were playing kind of a right-back and centre-back and stuff like that against Leverkusen. So if that continues, this match should be plenty of goals. So that's what we're hoping for here. We're not necessarily going to say Dortmund are going to get a big win here, but hopefully against Kiel, a team that are capable of conceding and scoring plenty of goals themselves, there should be plenty of goals in this match, and that's where the value will be, I think, because Borussia Dortmund are too heavily favoured in this one. They probably will go on and win, but they are too heavily favoured against a team like Kiel. So both teams to score, yes, is something you have to look at. It's happened 67% of the time for Kiel and 71% of the time this season for Borussia Dortmund, which kind of ties into what you were saying about Nuri Sahin. He should be under pressure with that, because if they can't keep clean sheets, they're never going to win close games, or they're never going to win matches 1-0 or anything like that. So there's just too many goals going in at the wrong end for Borussia Dortmund. Both teams to score, yes, is 1.59. Both teams here coming into this match on the back of 3-2 defeats each, and Kiel have had 3 games with 5 or more total goals in a row. Dortmund have had a 4-goal game and a 5-goal game in their last 2 games. So over 3.5 goals has happened 56% of Kiel's matches and 46% for Borussia Dortmund, but my tip is slightly less than that. Over total goals over 3.25, just to play it a tiny bit safer. It's my main tip for this match at 1.88.
Well, Dortmund must beat Kiel, of course, one of the worst teams in the Bundesliga, together with Bochum. Only 2 wins this season, their first season in the Bundesliga. Next game, as I said, probably the most interesting one is Bayer Leverkusen. Mainz, second against the fifth. What a season for Mainz. They were able to beat Bochum, so 6 wins in the last 7 Bundesliga games, but also Leverkusen are on fire. 6 consecutive wins in the Bundesliga. As you said, all your tips were correct in the game against Dortmund, and Patrick Schick scored a brace, still 4 points away from Bayern Munich, because as we know, they won last weekend as well.
Yeah, Patrick Schick obviously is in fantastic form. He's keeping Victor Boniface out of the team, but a player that I like the look of in an individual market here is Florian Wirtz as an anytime goal scorer, because he was benched for that game against Borussia Dortmund because there was delays on the A1 from Cologne to Leverkusen, so he missed the team bus and he didn't start. Him and Ezequiel Palacios were benched for the match. Wirtz came off the bench in the second half, so that his punishment is now over with, and he should be likely to start this game against Mainz. So Florian Wirtz is always a good one to look at for scoring goals. So anytime goal score here is 2.75. On the other side, Jan Burkhardt, he is one that has been brilliant away from home this season. He's now Mainz's top Bundesliga goal scorer. In Bundesliga history for Mainz, he's got 34 Bundesliga goals for the club. That's one more than 𝗵𝗵𝗔𝗍𝗍, who's left the club this month to join Salzburg, so he's only going to extend that streak. But good news for Mainz came out after that match as well, because Burkhardt has said that he will not transfer this month. He has been linked to Eintracht Frankfurt to replace Omar Marmoush, who's gone to Man City, obviously. So Burkhardt will be a good one for Mainz to keep for the rest of the second half of the season, and he should be a man that's capable of getting them goals and keeping them in close matches against teams that are better than them, like Bayer Leverkusen. So Leverkusen won this match 2-1 at home. The most common result is 1-0. So I think this could be a pretty tight match, because as well, if you look at Mainz's defeats on the road this season, they're only lost once so far away this season, and that was a 4-3. So they kept that pretty close too. They don't really get trounced in away matches. So my main tip is Mainz Asian handicap plus 1.25 for this one. But I also like, because I haven't said it in the last episode, and I know some of our fans like a good corner bet, this one looks the most likely for the corners market as well. So Leverkusen have the most corners in the Bundesliga, with 110 so far this season. Mainz are somewhere around the mid-table, but if you want a corners tip for this weekend, or this midweek I should say, it's total corners over 9.5 in this one, 1.77. But again, my main tip is Mainz to keep it close, Asian handicap plus 1.25.
All right, indeed, Mainz doing a great season. Last year they were fighting against relegation, and now they are fighting for the Champions League spots. In Champions League spots, we have Eintracht third, and they are playing against the sixth, Freiburg, also in European spots. So this is another good game. Your tip for St. Pauli Frankfurt was also correct, because Frankfurt won and Marmoush scored. So the streak of 3 winless games is over for Frankfurt. Freiburg also were able to win against Kiel, but away, Ronan, no wins in the last 5 trips for Freiburg.
Yeah, it's pretty bad on the road, but I don't think that's going to change here. Even if Omar Marmoush is left out of the team, because it was a surprise to some, perhaps, that he was still in the Frankfurt team. But as we know, that bid hadn't come in. It was just the player had agreed, but the clubs hadn't agreed at that stage. So the club are going to do everything in their power to keep playing their top scorer as long as they can, to keep him getting goals. And like I said before that match, I didn't think he would be distracted on the pitch, and he wasn't. He obviously got on the score sheet, but I'm not as confident in Omar Marmoush actually starting this game against Freiburg, because the closer we get to that transfer, the less likely it is that Frankfurt are going to risk getting their 60 million or 80 million or whatever it's going to be, that sort of a money of an asset, injured. Because if he was to get injured playing in a match that they should be hopeful of winning even without him, then they could be left with egg on their face and big empty pockets. And Frankfurt are a team, like many Bundesliga teams, that they can't afford to turn down offers like this. So if this was someone like, if he was playing at Bayern Munich, they could reject a bid from Man City, but Frankfurt and other teams in the Bundesliga, they can't turn down this sort of money. So they have to sell Omar Marmoush no matter how well he's playing. And he has 14 goals in 16 matches for Frankfurt, which is the best ever start of any striker they've had in their history. And they've had some pretty good strikers in their history. So they need to find goals elsewhere. So Jonathan Burkhardt won't obviously be the man to come in, but they'll probably be looking elsewhere. And they do have players in the squad that are capable of scoring, because in all the stats that were around Marmoush, some of them were how many assists he had got as well. So he was creating chances for others. So Frankfurt haven't just been depending on his goals to do everything for them. So I think they should still be confident of getting a result here. And Kevin Trapp, in that game that they won at the weekend, he was their man to match. They ended that run of competitions of defeats, like you said, without winning, or a run of 5 matches without winning in all competitions against St. Pauli. But St. Pauli actually had an XG of 2.25 to Frankfurt's 1.53. So Kevin Trapp, their goalkeeper, was a key reason why they won that match. So hopefully this one will turn into goals. Again, I'm hoping for lots of both teams to score matches this weekend. It's worth looking at an ACCA of both teams to score yes in a few different matches if you wanted to try an alternative to the one I'm suggesting later. But yeah, Freiburg have had, in their last 3 games, they've had a 3-2 win, a 5-1 defeat, and another 3-2 win. So both teams to score yes looks good at 162, and total goals over 3 looks good at 2.05. But I think even without Marmoush, or especially if he does play, but if he doesn't play, Frankfurt win is my favourite tip for this one.
Okay, big favorites, Dortmund, Leverkusen and Frankfurt. More difficult to predict is the next one, Wolfsburg, Gladbach, both in the middle of the table. Gladbach lost to Bayern, very close, 1-0 after 2 consecutive wins, and Wolfsburg, the opposite. They beat Hoffenheim away after 2 consecutive defeats. Tough one, this one to call.
Yeah, this is very 2 kind of even teams at the moment. They're both tied on 24th in the battle for 10th place at the moment, but 10th place isn't actually too far away from 6th place. And in Europe, I think they're only 3 points behind at the moment. So anything could kind of happen to these sort of teams if they go on a good run. So 𝗔𝗏𝗏 is banned for Wolfsburg after 5 yellow cards. He'll be a big absence for them in attack. But yeah, Gladbach, they will be hoping they can get something from this match and maybe even a win. And the odds look good for them to win. But yeah, they've won the last 4 meetings between the 2 sides, and the last 10 games between Wolfsburg and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Wolfsburg haven't won any of them. So yeah, history is not on their side, and recent history is not on their side. So they were lucky enough to obviously end their run of defeats in a row at the weekend. And before that Hoffenheim win, they've had both teams to score yes in their last 4 games. Gladbach had a run of four games as well, where both teams to score yes before that 1-0 loss to Bayern Munich you mentioned. So this is another one to look at. Both teams to score yes in 157. Morris Nicholas, the Borussia Mönchengladbach goalkeeper, was very busy against Bayern Munich. He had 9 saves. He prevented 3.55 XG in that match against Bayern. So it was a kind of a defensive masterclass at times until the controversial penalty. So I think that leads to the fact that it's going to be impossible for him to keep that many shots out every week. So hopefully there's going to be loads of goals in this one too. So total goals over 2.75. I like to look at 172.
Games on Wednesday, we have 5. First one is for the relegation, Bochum, St. Pauli. St. Pauli right now out of the bottom 3, but only 1 point away from Heidenheim. Bochum 8 points, so it's kind of the last call for Bochum, although even if they win, it's going to be very difficult. Only 1 win this season at home was the last win against Heidenheim. St. Pauli, they do better when they play away. Actually, for instance, their last trip was a win against Stuttgart.
Yeah, they're 8 in the away table, which seems crazy when you look at the overall table. They're just so bad at home for some reason. Yeah. And they play in a ground that should be an imposing sort of stadium because their fans are very passionate, and the stadium is kind of one of these old school stadiums that you don't see too many of, with all these mega corpo bowls that have sponsorship names and It's called some sponsorship brand and the name of a bank and arena at their end, but St. Pauli don't have one of those grounds, but they still don't seem to be scoring goals in front of their home fans. They're much better on the road. Bochum are not good on the road. They're not good at home. They're just not good at all. They've obviously had a couple of wins in a row, but they lost 2-0 to Mainz. They looked terrible in that match. They looked like the Bochum that we've seen for most of the season. St. Pauli should be confident they can get something from this match, maybe even win, but you never know. So goals scored in this one. This is not one. I'm going for total goals. Both teams to score all these things like the previous matches. The average goal score between these two teams is 0.9 for Bochum and 0.8 for St. Pauli. So it's not very good at all for either team. The total goals under 2.5 looks a good option for this one, 189. Bochum themselves to score under 1.5 goals is 1.60. But I think St. Pauli can go to Bochum and get something. So I like the look of St. Pauli double chance at 156, but even more so, St. Pauli draw no bet at exactly 2.
Well, they do better away from home, and Bochum are terrible this season. So we have good odds to back the team from Hamburg. Next one, Bayern Munich, Hoffenheim. Of course, the odds to back Bayern Munich are very low. Bayern got an important win against Gladbach, a pitch that is very difficult for them. And Kane scored from the penalty spot, whereas Hoffenheim, they are in trouble, very close to the relegation spots, lost to Wolfsburg and Gladbach at home in the last two games, and no wins in the last 5 Bundesliga games for them.
Yeah, they're on a bad run at the moment, and it's hard to find value in just betting on Bayern Munich, so you have to look at something else. And Bayern Munich, they'd be frustrated that they only won 1-0 on Saturday because they created 4.28 XG against Gladbach. They had 8 big chances in that match, and they were only able to get the 3 points thanks to a penalty. So Bayern need to keep winning and need to keep getting points on the board, because they're only 4 points ahead of Leverkusen, like you said earlier. But Leverkusen are playing already by the time Bayern Munich have played, so there could be only 1 point ahead by the time that Bayern Munich kick off against Hoffenheim, and that puts even more pressure on Vincent Kompany, because it will be a disaster if he does not win the league this season, especially having kind of built up a bit of an advantage over his rivals early on. If he was to let that slip and Bayern Munich not to win the league, that will be the end of his coaching career at Bayern Munich. So yeah, Vincent Kompany needs to keep winning matches, and this is one that they should be confident of winning, because it's almost exactly a year since Bayern Munich and Hoffenheim played in this exact fixture, with Bayern Munich at home, the 12th of January in 2024, Bayern won 3-0. So it's just a year and 2 days coming up afterwards. So yeah, Bayern Munich should be confident of picking up another sort of win like that, because Hoffenheim are very poor on the road. They're yet to win an away match. They're 15th in the away table. They went 3 away games without scoring before they drew 1-1 with Dortmund in December. They've scored just 4 goals away from home this season. So Manuel Neuer as well, he is confirmed, he admitted as much that he's going to be extending his contract at Bayern Munich, so that should give him a boost and give the Bayern Munich backline a boost. So Bayern Munich, when I'm looking for value in this one, is a Bayern Munich clean sheet, 2.15, and Bayern Munich have won 6 games to 0 already at home in all competitions this season. So Bayern Munich to win to 0 is slightly better than a Bayern Munich clean sheet, so that's 2.20.
Of course, it's very. There is no value on betting on Bayern Munich. Everyone expects them to beat Hoffenheim and probably beat heavily Hoffenheim. Great game. The next one is Stuttgart, RB Leipzig, 2 teams in the Champions League this season, and both want to be as well in the Champions League next season. Stuttgart getting closer to the European spots after beating Augsburg, lost though the last home game against St. Pauli, surprisingly, and Leipzig in Champions League spots after beating Werder Bremen with 2 goals scored by Xavi Simons.
Yeah, it was great to see Xavi Simons back. We mentioned it, obviously, him and David Raum coming back in last week's video. I didn't expect him perhaps to start, but he has started, and if he does start, he could be a great option to be a goal scorer bet in this one, because it only took him 24 minutes to score in his first game back from injury. And Marco Rose after the game said, we know that he's a difference maker, and he is a difference maker for Leipzig. They look like a totally different team when he's in the team. And not only does he score, he provides plenty of assists as well, and that took him to 5 goals in 12 games this season. So yeah, I think he is a man to look at as an anytime goal scorer. And I had a look on Sunday evening, and I had a look again on Monday morning, and the odds don't seem to be dropping that much despite 𝗵𝗵 Simons coming back from injury. 4.5 anytime goal scorer. It was still available on Monday morning. It's coming down to 4.2 in some places, but even if it dropped to 3.5, it's still excellent value for him, because he seems to be like 12th in the goal scorer market of all the players. So the bookmakers haven't caught up to the fact that maybe he's back from injury and back scoring goals. So he is a good one to look at. And on the other side, Dennis Undav, he came back from injury, and he's got to be a huge boost for Stuttgart having him back too. Only took him 4 minutes after coming off the bench to score the winner against Augsburg. Him as an anytime goal scorer, 2.30. So if I'm giving tips of anytime goal scorers from both teams, you bet I'm going to say both teams to score yes, 143. Both teams to score yes has happened in all the last 4 meetings between these two sides. Going to happen again here. Last season, both games had loads of goals. It was 5-1 home win for Leipzig and a 5-2 home win for Stuttgart in the 2 matches last season. So these teams that like scoring goals, average goals scored each is 1.9 versus 1.8. So total goals over 3.25 looks good here. 1.92. I like the look of a RB Leipzig win at 3.20. It's very high for Leipzig to win any match against anybody, aside from Bayern Munich, because 𝗵𝗵 Simons being back, I think they're a totally different team. Marco Rosa said he's a difference maker. I think he's a difference maker in regards of them actually challenging for the Bundesliga title. If Bayern Munich were to slip up, 𝗵𝗵 Simons, he is too good for RB Leipzig. PSG, they look like they're signing someone who's going to play in the exact same position as him, so he'll be gone next summer probably. But keep an eye on him for the rest of the season, because he is in the biggest shop window of all. He could be an 80 billion player next summer. So keep an eye on 𝗵𝗵 Simons. But yeah, I like the look of an RB Leipzig win, but slightly safer. RB Leipzig, Asian handicap, plus a quarter. Looks very good at 198.
Well, from the upper part of the standings to the lower part, Union Berlin, Augsburg, they are both 3 points away from Heidenheim, and especially Union Berlin in really bad form. And they lost to Heidenheim, no wins in the last 9. Augsburg also in bad form, to be honest, only 1 point in the last 4 Bundesliga games, and they are the worst away team in this championship with only 2 points.
Yeah, these are 2 very bad teams. This is a both team to lose game that we like saying. It's 12 versus 13th when you look at them in the table, but it does not feel like, it feels more like a 16 versus 17 kind of game. Both teams easily could be dragged into the relegation fight. The wins elsewhere for other teams in and around them could drag them in. Union obviously are 6 defeats in a row, 10 games without a win, and Steffen Baumgart has been called in to kind of save that. He started off life with a defeat, so get used to that, Steffen. Not that he wasn't a stranger to that when he was at Cologne, but I think the red card of Tom Rothe in the game kind of ruined any chance of his game plan really working. They were 1-0 down at the time, but Rothe is obviously going to be suspended for this one. But Baumgart came out after and said he was disappointed with the result, but he was happy enough with some of the performances that his players put in. So I think he can kind of get Union back to being a hard team to beat again. And that's kind of what they will hope to be. So this is going to be one of these hard team to beat kind of games, because Augsburg, they've had 3 defeats in a row. They've no wins in 5, unless you count penalties in the cup. So yeah, these the last meetings between these 2 sides have been pretty poor. The last 3 meetings have all had 2 goals or fewer in them. The average goals in them are between the 2 teams are less than 1 for Union Berlin, 0.8. Augsburg just barely over 1, 1.1. It was a 1-1 in November last season. So the correct score, 1-1. I love a correct score, 7.50. This could be a draw. So I like Augsburg double chance, exactly 2 for this one, because Union Berlin, they just can't win. And Augsburg, I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, 2 really bad teams, Union Berlin and Augsburg. Luckily for them, there are 3 worst. For instance, Heidenheim, they are right now only, 1 point away from Hoffenheim and Pauli. After the last win against Union Berlin, they were coming from 7 consecutive defeats. Werder Bremen, they are favorites because even if they lost to Leipzig, they ended up the year with 3 consecutive wins.
Yeah, Bremen, they had almost as much XG as Leipzig in that match. It was 1.63 versus 1.31, and it ended up 4-2, because if you haven't seen 𝗀𝐿's goal, have a look at it, search your social media to see it, because what a rocket that goal was. Absolutely incredible. Pity he didn't do it at the Euros, but he was back doing it for Leipzig. There was a few wonder goals in that game for Leipzig. So, yeah, they kind of are giving a match against teams that are better than them in the table, so they should definitely be more than a match against teams that are worse than them. At them, Franz Kratzig scored on his debut for Heidenheim. He's playing a bit further forward than we expected him to play against Union Berlin, and he was pretty good in that match. So I think Heidenheim have signed smartly again. That's what they tend to do. They bring in these loan signings that do well for the team, and they are a team that has shown last season especially that they are kind of cut out for the Bundesliga. They are run well. They're a very well run club, so hopefully they can get some more of this European money maybe to keep them in the Bundesliga for next season, because they are a tremendously entertaining team. Even if they don't win every game, they tend to have lots of goals in their games. It was 4-2 to Heidenheim at home and 2-1 to Heidenheim in Bremen last season. They won both of these games. And Bremen, they were on a run of 4 wins before that defeat to Leipzig at the weekend. So I think they can get back to a run of wins. They can get back to 1 at least at this match. And Heidenheim, their form is super inconsistent. They have 2 wins at home, 2 wins away this season, but they're in the relegation playoff because that's just the nature of Heidenheim kind of playing on all fronts in Europe and in the Bundesliga this season. Bremen are 5th away, but it's 13th at home. They've only 2 home wins compared to 5 away. So I think they really need to start picking up points at home. And this is somewhere they can pick up 3 points at home. So further Bremen win at 170 looks pretty good. But as I haven't picked it as a safe bet or a main tip for any match yet, but I've listed it in probably 4 or 5 matches so far. My main tip for this one is both teams to score. Yes, we'll go for that.
Okay, well, these are all the games we have in this match day with Ronan Murphy, analyzed with Ronan. Remember, of course, that you can place your own tips in Oddspedia, and we have great competitions where you can win cash prizes. And also, of course, you can create your own tipster league thanks to Rivals. Let's finish our video. As always, last weekend was correct. Ronan, with your safe tip.
Yeah, my safe tip. I'm confident of Leipzig, and the bookies aren't as confident. So the RB Leipzig Asian handicap plus 1.5 is 128. That looks really good.
Okay, indeed, it looks really, really good. And the ACCA?
Yeah, we're up to follow up last week's. Last weekend's was 5.11. The ACCA came in at. So this one isn't quite as high, but it's only 2 games again. So hopefully we can come in on this one. Gladbach Asian handicap plus 0.5 and Leipzig Asian handicap plus 0.5 for a total of 3.34.
Okay, let's enjoy these midweek games in the Bundesliga. Ronan, thank you. Best of luck for everyone. Bye-bye.